There exists a form of seduction that is far darker than anything written in the old manuscripts of Machiavelli. It does not happen in royal courts or secret chambers. It happens in our minds. Every single day, we are being seduced, not by people, but by impulses, desires, and illusions. The world does not need to control us through force. It simply whispers to the weakest part of our nature. Our craving for attention, our hunger for validation, our addiction to pleasure. And we obey. That is the dirtiest method of seduction ever created, because it does not need to conquer us from the outside. It convinces us to surrender from within. When Machiavelli wrote The Prince, he was not simply describing political strategy. He was revealing a psychological truth. People are slaves to their emotions. They can be guided, deceived, and molded, not through violence, but through their own desires. What he called power was never about armies or crowns. It was about understanding the invisible strings that move the human heart. Whoever sees those strings clearly controls them. But here is the paradox Machiavelli never said aloud. The first person you must learn to control is yourself. Because if you do not, then every whisper of the world becomes your master. We live in a time where attention is currency, where emotional reactions are sold as truth, and where calmness is mistaken for weakness. In such a world, the real Stoic becomes a threat, because he cannot be seduced. He does not fall for the illusion of constant pleasure, nor does he chase the applause of the crowd. He walks in silence, unbothered by noise, detached from chaos, yet entirely awake. The Machiavellian manipulator may win hearts, but the Stoic wins himself. Let's pause and ask, who among us truly governs our emotions anymore? Who can stand still when the world screams for reaction? Who can remain calm when provoked, silent when insulted, patient when tempted? That is power. That is real seduction. Because what draws people most is not charm, nor flattery, nor words. It is the mystery of restraint. The man or woman who no longer needs to impress, influence, or please anyone becomes the most magnetic force in any room. Not because they play Machiavelli's game, but because they have outgrown it. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." But a Stoic would reply, "It is better to be respected by your own soul than enslaved by your desires." This is the silent rebellion of the disciplined mind. The dark world of manipulation feeds on emotional chaos. When you remain still, you starve it. In our age, seduction takes many forms. The glow of a screen, the applause of strangers, the constant need to be seen. We chase what is visible and lose touch with what is real. The modern Machiavelli doesn't sit on a throne. He designs algorithms. He studies behavior, measures impulses, and knows exactly which emotion to trigger next. He doesn't need to lie to us. He only needs to keep us reacting, because every time we react, we lose command. The Stoic, however, learns a different art, the art of not taking the bait. He observes his emotions rise like waves, but does not drown in them. He studies desire without being owned by it. He feels anger without becoming it. That is the highest form of psychological power, not manipulation, but mastery. And here is the secret Machiavelli would never admit. The one who cannot be seduced becomes the true seducer. Because control, calmness, and composure radiate a silent magnetism that manipulation cannot fake. The more you withdraw your attention from triviality, the more valuable it becomes. The less you seek validation, the more your presence commands it. The quieter you grow, the louder your energy becomes. This is not arrogance, it is sovereignty.
It is what the ancients meant by ruling yourself before ruling others. We must understand this. The dirtiest method of seduction is not charm, not lies, not beauty. It is dependence. Dependence on approval, dependence on recognition, dependence on emotional stimulation. The Stoic escapes this trap not by rejecting the world, but by mastering his response to it. He does not fight temptation through denial, he transforms it into discipline. He does not hate pleasure, he observes its limits. He does not fear emotion, he studies its cause. He turns every seductive pull into a moment of awareness, and in that awareness, the chain breaks.
We have all been seduced by comfort, by illusion, by distraction. We have all fallen for Machiavelli's method without realizing it. But it is not too late to reclaim the throne of our own minds. Because once we learn to govern our emotions, no one, not even the cleverest manipulator, can govern us. And that is the beginning of freedom. Part 1. The Machiavellian Trap. Understanding the art of psychological seduction. There are two kinds of power in this world. The power that manipulates emotions and the power that transcends them. Machiavelli understood the first one well. He knew that most people are driven not by truth, but by emotion, that fear, vanity, and desire control their decisions more than reason ever will. He built an empire of thought around this understanding. His dirtiest method was not a trick or a strategy. It was a diagnosis of human weakness. He saw what others refused to see, that the easiest way to rule a person is to feed their illusions. Look around. The same psychology rules the modern age. Leaders do not command with strength, they seduce with promises. Influencers do not teach, they hypnotize with attention. And we, thinking we are free, are simply responding to the most seductive force of all, our own desires being reflected back to us. We are being played gently, invisibly, beautifully. That is the Machiavellian trap. He once wrote, "Men are so simple and so much creatures of circumstance that the deceiver will always find someone ready to be deceived." But what if we flip this principle inward? What if the deceiver is not outside, but inside us? What if our own ungoverned emotion, the hunger for pleasure, the fear of being ignored, the pride that cannot bear silence, plays the role of the manipulator? Then the battlefield is not the court of Florence, it is our own mind. Machiavelli's art of seduction begins with a single principle: never attack directly what can be captured indirectly. He knew that open force invites resistance, but soft control goes unnoticed. To manipulate someone, you do not confront their will, you guide it. You do not demand, you make them want. You do not fight, you seduce. He discovered that influence is not about power over others, but about understanding the currents that move the human soul and steering them quietly. And in truth, most people have no anchor. Their emotions are easily swayed, their attention easily hijacked, their convictions easily sold. A calm man in a chaotic world is a fortress. A distracted one is a puppet. The Stoic looks at Machiavelli's lesson and sees something different. He does not judge it, he studies it. Because understanding manipulation teaches us how to become immune to it. To know how the trap works is to learn where to stand so you are never caught. And the first principle of that immunity is this: know your desires. Let's be honest, we've all been manipulated. by praise, by attention, by beauty, by fear. We've all been seduced by the illusion of importance. We were not weak, just unaware. And Machiavelli built his world on this unawareness. He knew that to control someone, you must first convince them that they are free. That is how every addiction works, every illusion of control, every toxic relationship, every system that thrives on dependence. You give the illusion of choice and let desire do the rest. So we return to Machiavelli's dirtiest method. It was not a formula for love or control. It was the realization that people crave to be led by what they cannot control within themselves. But the Stoic learns to become the one who does not need to be led because he already leads himself. That is why in every generation the manipulator rules the crowd, but the Stoic rules himself. And in the end, only one kind of rule lasts.
Part 2. The Stoic Mirror, where true seduction begins. We have spoken of Machiavelli's power, the art of influence, the understanding of human weakness, but now we turn the mirror inward. Because the true battlefield is not between us and others, it is between impulse and awareness, between noise and silence, between the part of us that craves and the part that commands. The Stoic mirror does not reflect how others see us. It shows us who we truly are when no one is watching. Most people seek to influence, few seek to understand. But the Stoic does neither. He observes. He looks at himself as a strategist looks at an empire, seeing where discipline stands, where emotion rebels, where illusions infiltrate the walls. He studies his own heart the way Machiavelli studied princes, not to control others, but to master himself. This is the beginning of true seduction, not of people, but of reality itself. Because when we master our internal world, the external one begins to bend around us. There is a certain magnetism in self-control. It is silent, invisible, but undeniable. The person who no longer seeks attention becomes the one everyone notices. The one who speaks rarely becomes the one everyone listens to. The one who does not chase becomes the one others gravitate toward. Why? Because calmness in a chaotic world is power. Because discipline in a distracted world is mystery. Because in an age where everyone begs to be seen, the one who stands still becomes unforgettable. Machiavelli taught the world how to move others. The Stoic teaches us how to move ourselves. And that is the deeper, darker form of seduction. Because when you no longer seek to control others, but instead radiate control over yourself, you generate an energy that cannot be faked. It is not charisma. It is composure. It is not confidence. It is peace. It is not manipulation. It is mastery. And in that mastery, people feel something ancient, something they cannot name. They feel presence. They feel weight. They feel the aura of someone who no longer needs anything from them. Let us be honest. Most of us live in reaction. We are constantly pushed and pulled by opinions, expectations, and emotions. We rise when praised and fall when ignored. We burn in anger, drown in pleasure, tremble in fear. In this constant storm, no wonder we forget who we are. We are always being moved. And what moves us most are not events, but the meanings we attach to them. That is where Stoicism begins.
in the reinterpretation of meaning. It does not ask us to suppress emotion, it asks us to study it. It asks us to face desire not with shame, but with precision, to see clearly what drives us, and to choose consciously what deserves our energy. When we stand before the Stoic mirror, we begin to see how often we've been seduced, not by others, but by the illusions we've built for ourselves. The illusion that success will make us free, that love will make us whole, that attention will make us significant. But freedom built on desire is still captivity, because the moment what you desire leaves, your peace goes with it. The Stoic learns to build peace not on possession, but on perception. He learns to love without clinging, to work without obsession, to win without arrogance, to lose without despair. That is the kind of mastery Machiavelli could never understand, because his world revolved around control, but the Stoics' world revolves around balance. There is a moment in every life when we realize that our reactions are our real enemies. We think others disturb our peace, but it is our own lack of discipline that does. We think others seduce us, but it is our own hunger that leads us astray. We think life tests us, but it only mirrors what we have yet to master. The Stoic mirror shows us that every external manipulation corresponds to an internal weakness, and the only way to stop being moved by others is to remove the handle by which they move us. That handle is emotional attachment. The desire to be liked, the fear of rejection, the need to be understood, the addiction to comfort. Once those handles are broken, we become untouchable.
Part 3. The weakness of the uncontrolled mind. The greatest prison is not built from walls or bars. It is built from impulses we cannot master. The uncontrolled mind is a servant that thinks it is a king. It acts without permission, speaks without thought, and feels without measure. It drags us through every storm and convinces us that we have no choice but to follow. And that, my friend, is how empires fall, not in the world, but within. We often think that manipulation begins when someone deceives us, but in truth, it begins long before that, when we lose control of our own reactions. A word triggers us, a look offends us, a delay irritates us, a rejection breaks us. And every time we react without awareness, we surrender a part of our power. The manipulator doesn't need to force us. He simply learns our triggers and lets us destroy ourselves. That is the secret Machiavelli understood. He didn't have to create weakness in people. He only had to see it. Think about it. A man who cannot master his anger can be provoked. A man who cannot master his desires can be tempted. A man who cannot master his fear can be controlled. And a man who cannot master his pride can be flattered. Every emotion we fail to govern becomes a string that others can pull. That is why the Stoics said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom does not come from breaking chains. It comes from removing the handles that others grab to move us. The uncontrolled mind is not evil, it is untrained. It runs wild because it has never been taught discipline. It believes every thought, obeys every impulse, and resists every silence. It feeds on distraction, thrives on reaction, and dies in solitude. That is why silence frightens people, because in silence they can hear the chaos inside.
and that chaos reminds them how far they've drifted from themselves. But silence is not our enemy. It is our training ground. It is where we learn to watch thoughts rise and fade without chasing them, where we learn that desire is just wind, and anger is just thunder, loud, temporary, and powerless if we do not join it. When the uncontrolled mind sees beauty, it becomes attached. When it sees rejection, it collapses. When it sees challenge, it complains. When it sees success, it becomes arrogant. But the controlled mind sees all of this as weather, passing, changing, temporary. And when storms no longer dictate your mood, you begin to realize that peace was never missing. It was buried beneath reaction. Machiavelli understood that people will betray their values for comfort, their peace for pleasure, their integrity for validation. He saw that they do not need to be forced, they just need to be tempted. The Stoic, however, learns the opposite. To be tempted is to be trained, and to be trained is to be tested. He does not avoid discomfort, he embraces it, because every discomfort is a forge, and every resistance is a whetstone sharpening his mind. While others run from difficulty, he walks into it, not because he enjoys pain, but because he understands what it builds. The uncontrolled mind seeks pleasure and finds dependency. The controlled mind seeks discipline and finds freedom. The uncontrolled mind looks for admiration and finds emptiness. The controlled mind looks for virtue and finds peace. The uncontrolled mind tries to dominate the world. The controlled mind conquers the self, and in doing so, rules all. There is a strange paradox in power. The more you need to prove it, the less you truly have it. The more you seek control over others, the more you reveal your lack of control within. The manipulator, no matter how clever, is still a slave to his own need to dominate. But the Stoic, unmoved and self-contained, holds a quieter authority. He doesn't chase victory, he embodies it, because his greatest conquest has already been won. This is why emotional discipline feels almost supernatural to those who lack it. When someone insults you and you do not react, they are disarmed. When someone tries to tempt you and you remain indifferent, they are confused. When someone expects you to crumble and you stand tall, they are defeated. Not because you attacked, but because you refused to play the game. And that refusal is the highest form of domination. To control the mind is to reclaim time. To reclaim time is to reclaim life, because every moment we spend reacting is a moment we give away. The Stoic reclaims it all, one breath, one pause, one decision at a time. He slows down the space between stimulus and response, and in that space, he builds a kingdom.
Part 4. Machiavelli's Method: Exploiting Human Desire. There's a reason Machiavelli remains both feared and studied, because he understood something most men never dare to admit. People are not moved by truth, they are moved by need. And need, when seen through the eyes of a strategist, is not something to satisfy, it is something to use. Every manipulation, every act of psychological seduction begins not with deceit, but with observation. Machiavelli watched people the way a sculptor studies marble, not to judge it, but to discover its cracks. He saw that human beings crave three things more than logic: attention, validation, and illusion.
He understood that whoever controls these controls minds. We see this everywhere today, in conversations, in relationships, in politics, even in the marketplace of digital attention. The Machiavellian spirit did not die with the Renaissance. It simply evolved into algorithms, into status games, into the invisible battles of perception we fight every day. Machiavelli's method was simple but ruthless. Make them depend on you emotionally, and you own them psychologically. He never relied on force. He relied on the weakness that hides in human desire. That weakness that says, I want to be chosen. He knew that to seduce a mind, you must first understand what it fears losing. That's why the dirtiest form of seduction is not charm, it is mirror-making. Reflect what they most desire and let them believe it lives within you. People fall not for others, they fall for their own reflection in others. They mistake recognition for love, agreement for truth, flattery for value. That's how the manipulation begins, not through words, but through a mirror. A Machiavellian would say, show a man his ambition and he will serve you. Show a woman her beauty and she will forgive you. Show a crowd its own righteousness and they will follow you. But what he really meant was this: people are bound by their own illusions. The one who knows this truth holds silent power. Because they no longer fight for the world's attention. They understand that attention itself is a game for the desperate. Yet here's where Stoicism steps in like a silent god of clarity. Where the Machiavellian plays the game to win, the Stoic watches the game dissolve. He understands the same psychology, but uses it in reverse. Where the Machiavellian manipulates weakness, the Stoic masters it within himself. He learns his own desires, his own fears, his own need for approval, not to exploit others, but to free himself. And that's what Machiavelli never understood. When you depend on the illusions of others for power, you are still a slave, only now to your own strategy. You become addicted to control, chained by your own manipulations. Every victory becomes another prison. The next stage is the counterattack. The moment where we take what Machiavelli knew and reverse it, not to manipulate the world, but to transcend its manipulations. Because there's a darker, purer power waiting for us, the kind that doesn't rely on deception, but on silence, the kind that doesn't chase, but attracts, the kind that doesn't beg to be seen because it already knows its worth. That's the Stoic way of seduction, the anti-Machiavellian path. And it begins when we master one simple principle: to remain unmoved in a world obsessed with movement.